Hi, Peacock.
Good morning.
Wow, what a beautiful background you have there now for episode 9.
It is. It's very
Where are you
serene.
now?
Joshua tree.
Dude, didn't you just get back from Oaxaca?
It's the vacation from the vacation.
Do they have an airport in Joshua Tree? Is that where you landed right after Oaxaca? Jeez.
N- no, they don't, but it's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
Awesome. That's very beautiful. My God, that the background looks like that fake little background that we do when we're doing our little calls, right? Little visual backgrounds, but that's really, really gorgeous. What's the weather like over there?
It's I want to say it's about like 75, maybe 80, but not that bad. At night, it's cold.
California, right? We love it. Like, I mean, come on. It's
I can't.
always 70. Don't let it go to 60 though, because then I gotta bust out my scarf. So,
I was gonna say last night it was like 58. I'm like, oh, it's cold.
of course, because that's what we pay big time taxes around here because we wanted to keep it at 70 even when it's raining. So I'm so happy to see you, Peacock. I feel like I haven't seen you in like forever. And welcome back since we're going to now record our episode 9. And this one is Oaxaca and family history, which is another episode that we're going to talk about our travels. So tell me, I know you left to
We
Oaxaca right before El Dia de los Muertos, and you were going for multiple reasons. You were going for research, you were going to connect with some family because your dad is originally from Oaxaca, and just basically kind of take in the culture, the food, the ambiance, especially during El Dia de los Muertos, because that's where it's kind of happening, right? So tell me how it was. I mean, when you first arrived, how did it go?
Well, when we arrived, so let me just start by saying that we didn't take the plane from LAX, and I want to share that with folks because there's multiple ways to get to Oaxaca, and especially for Dia de los Muertos, that is such a beautiful event that I highly, highly recommend for people to experience. It's one thing to see it on TV, to see it on social media, but when you're there, you just are just enthralled with the whole environment. We flew out of TJ. And so for anybody that's wondered if
And
it's
for those
if
of you
it's
who don't
easy,
know what TJ is, well, hold on. For those of you who do
Tijuana,
not live in California and don't know what TJ is, it's Tijuana, Mexico. It's right at the border.
right at the border with San Diego. I'll tell you this much. It was the logistics of that super easy. You drive to San Diego, you pre-purchase your parking, you park, you walk in, you get your ticket, and you walk through this tunnel, and then voila, you're at the TJ airport. And then you go through security, go through everything that you normally do, but it's all enclosed. And there was, I mean, for being Dia de los Muertos, I expected it to be really packed. It was not packed at all. I haven't posted those pictures yet, but I do want to offer that to people because sometimes people are trying to figure out, they don't want to do like um, a layover from TJ to Oaxaca, straight 3 hour flight, super easy. But back to your question about what it felt like, it was surreal to me when I landed. When I actually got off that plane and looked around, everything just seemed like I was transported somewhere else, which obviously I was, but it was more of an emotional transportation, if that makes sense. We talk a lot about, traveling and the benefits that are connected with mental health. I can tell you, this trip was very much a personal one, in addition to research, in addition to finding what my roots, where I come from. I have that unique combination of half Spanish and half Mexican. And, I've told you before, when I go to Cordoba, I feel like I'm home, right? To me, that's home. I'm like, I'm here. And Oaxaca gave me that same sense. It was the weird, like, I'm like, how can I feel at home in so many places, right? And they're very, obviously here in the US, this is where I was born. So to me, this is where my home is. But going to Cordoba and landing there, like I know I'm in Spain. And
relate to that, Anna, because I'm from Boyle Heights and I'm half Salvi and half Puerto Rican. Of course, everyone I went to high school with, at least I want to presume, they were like 99% Mexican background. So I didn't fit in really. And the first time I went to New York to go visit family and friends, I felt like I was at home. Like for the first time, I felt like people look like me. People have the same hair as me. People had the same body shape as me. Same thing in Puerto Rico. I just felt like, wow, I actually fit in. People look like me. So I totally get it. Like it's a weird thing that you can actually fit in a place that you've never been to. But
Yeah.
obviously, that's where your roots come from. Not that my roots come from New York, but I'm saying there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York that immigrated, early on in the early century, last century, and the same thing with you, right? Like your dad's from there, so your dad is in you. And so now going back to Oaxaca, it's like, oh shoot, like I feel the presence of my dad in this country and I feel the connection to my ancestors. I know it's very powerful.
Oh, it was very powerful. Seeing, and I got to do this trip with my mom and my sister, so that made it even more special. Um, but I can tell you that when I met with my cousin, I hadn't seen in over 40 years. And that to me, when I saw him, I was like, whoa. It was like a younger version of my dad. Like I would look at his hands and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, oh, he truly is my cousin. Like you could see it, right? And it's funny because now in retrospect, when I think of, my other cousin that also traveled there, and you look at them, you're like, wow, you see the connection. But when we were in the capital in Oaxaca, Oaxaca, I mean the streets were just jam packed. And we couldn't get from point A to point B that we were supposed to take like a 20-minute drive. It took us almost an hour and a half. So
Was it
that
because of the tourism? Was it because everyone that was there now they're there for the Dia de los Muertos? So now there's a
everybody
lot of
was there for,
tourism.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
A very high attended event in Oaxaca, which I think, for sure, Sandy, I want to make a little announcement after all this, but I think that in order for someone to experience Oaxaca Dia de los Muertos, it's about you being there present. Because there's a lot of things that, get lost in the translation. And there's also a
Yes.
lot of things that get added in the translation. And one of the things that I learned, and I didn't know this, I just thought that for Day of the Dead, everybody set up their altares the same way, and it's not true. So in Oaxaca, they don't put food. We've
Oh,
seen where people ponen los pan de muerto, lo que sea. They don't.
it's
I
supposed to be the favorite foods of your ancestors. So cafecito, pan, tamales, pupusas, whatever it is that you're supposed to put on there so they can eat it. But no, that's not the case in Oaxaca.
not in Oaxaca. So I asked my cousin, I'm like, why? He goes, every region does it a little bit different.
Got it.
But I was very lucky for the first time ever in my entire life. While I was in Oaxaca, we got to travel to my dad's hometown to Tequisislan. And my
And how
sister,
far is that
oh,
from Oaxaca?
it's about a 3.5 hour ride, a drive,
So from LA to
three and
Vegas,
a half hour
basically.
drive. Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. But the road, the drive is beautiful. You think the pictures that I've shared would have filters? They're like the unique color without. There are no filters in any of my pictures.
Oh, that's
It's
beautiful.
crisp, clean. Um, just even the smell, the air is just beautiful. So that I got to do this was just extra special. But even more meaningful was that I got to decorate my grandmother's
Oh,
place of burial and my uncle's.
that's very
So that,
special, because
yeah, it was.
and that's like taking it back to the home country, right? You're doing this at your home country, which is such a great thing, and has a great meaning. Not just going to Oaxaca for Dia de los Muertos. Like for me, going to Oaxaca for Dia de los Muertos is more of a traveler's
An
dream
experience.
bucket list kind of situation. But if I went to El Salvador and went to go see my great grandparents, and that would be a different story. But I get it. For you, it had such a true, deep meaning to be there. So tell us, what are the dates in Oaxaca for the Dia de los Muertos celebration? Like, when does it start and when does it end?
So it's a quick turnaround. I know that here we have like weeks preparing and everything. Over there, it's literally a 24-hour period. People will start
From the
October.
first, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So October 31st, they will start in that night para amanecer, to wake up there, right? There's
Got
people
it.
that do that in the cemetery. And then it's, the day, but really everybody comes together on the evening of November 1st. The evening of November 1st, at every site, you have family members singing, talking, reminiscing, you know,
So they're out in the cemetery until wee hours of the night.
when I say wee hours of the night, we walked out of there at 2 a.m. and people were still coming. It was surreal. And I shared the pictures, of what the cemetery
Yes.
looks like. It's the real candles, it's people, and everybody, and I mean everybody says hello. Hola, buenas noches, ¿cómo están? And we're
That's
like,
different from another place that we know of.
I was like,
You know what I'm talking about. We've been to places where people do not say good morning and we're shocked.
see, and then I don't know again, because I walked around in so Oaxaca, so just taking it back, Oaxaca is very much city. You have your mercados and you have your exhibits and everything. There's a lot of movement, the catedrales are there and everything. But when you go to Tequisislan, that's a whole other ballgame. You can throw the word tourism out of the door. We were the only tourists there. So we obviously, stuck out, like, it was obvious that we were not from there, but it was beautiful to see how everybody, they're not restaurants. You go to homes and
Mm-hmm.
you're eating there, but everybody passing buenos dias, buenas tardes, hola, ¿qué tal? And just
It's
welcoming.
genuine living. So it's genuine living. Like, not every town in Mexico or in the world is a tourist area. So your father was from a town that is not a tourist trap,
No,
basically. He
no.
is from a place where people live there and their lives are not interrupted by tourism and
Yeah,
the although that has a it's a down point, right? Because then there's no tourism dollars coming in to help
I
the
was just
people.
gonna say, I was
It
just
has a good and the bad, right?
yeah. There's
So
pros
I
and cons.
pros and
Pero
cons. So, which is, unfortunately, and we talked about this on when we were chatting, and that is many reasons why people leave their home countries, because there is nothing there to sustain their life, and there's no commerce, there's no business, so it's hard. Absolutely, it's hard,
yeah,
and that's another story that we can talk about, because people that don't know the economic or political situations in some of these countries, they're kind of like, well, why don't they just stay there? Well, it's not that easy, when there's no food, and when people are walking, and I know you'll touch on that, when people are walking their way out of their country to a border, you have to understand that the desperation and the necessity is so real. People don't leave their home countries and their language and their culture and their families and their neighbors because they got nothing else to do. It's because it's hunger. We are in need. And so that is the real situation there.
I mean, following up on that, I can tell you, that was one of the saddest things that I got to see when we were traveling. You asked me how long does it take from Oaxaca to Tequisislan. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. But in those 3.5 hour drives, beautiful landscapes, just friendly people, but there are also people that are literally walking what took us in a car 3.5 hours. They're walking that with children, with their waters, with their backpacks, with things on I mean, I still get goosebumps because there was a moment there where we were behind this like 18-wheeler truck, and it just had the bed, and people were piled on it, just piled on it. And the road to Tequisislan or back to Oaxaca, that road in between is not a straight road. It's a windy road with curves that you're just and then this is a mountain and this is nothing. I mean, it's just the danger that they expose themselves to, right? That they're walking.
And if you
It,
think
it
about, right, they're coming from Tequis to Oaxaca, right? And
they're going
Oaxaca is a
through.
meeting point, right? From Central America, South America, people who are just walking their way to make it to the border so they can cross over. So for anybody who says, well, why can't they just come here legally? Yeah, if we could come here legally, we wouldn't be walking, 3,000 miles to a border and risk your life on a river. Like, it's just a lot of, to it. So yeah, the humanitarian situation there is dire. And to be in an 18-wheeler, and that's how we hear these horror stories of people being trapped in these 18-wheelers without oxygen after they cross the border. These are real risks people take every day because of the hunger, the desperation to prosper. And my grandma, I think I told you, my grandma said to me, mejor pobre aquí que rica en mi país. So she's like, aquí no puedo vender lo que sea. Like, I can sell rocks and people will buy them, which is true, right? America, as capitalist as we are, you can make a living
Yeah, yeah,
and no
it's
one goes hungry. So tell me, Anna. So I know that was such a beautiful experience for you. I mean, it was transformational when it comes to, I know you went there when you were a child, but I think as an adult, it has a different meaning. But before I get to the next subject, tell me the 5 things that you learned about Oaxaca that you had no idea about.
Well, let's start with the food. I know my dad, was from Oaxaca, but I know Mexican food as Mexican food. Your tacos, your burritos, your quesadillas, your nachos, which then come to learn as like that's not really the Mexican food, but we've made it that way. But I learned about clayudas, memelas, and for people that are wondering, like if you haven't heard, right? So memelas, to me, the best way that I can describe it is, you know what a sope is, right? A little thicker tortilla. It's not as thick
Yes.
as that, but it's a handmade tortilla, and they put something called asiento, which is fat, um, which I did ask them to withhold the majority of the time, but they put black beans. So there was no pinto beans, which I was like, oh, only black beans everywhere. Um, they use a lot of quesillo, and it's a specific quesillo that shreds, that melts really, really nicely. They have pickled onion, red onion, which
Yes.
I had that in Yucatan. But knowing the proximity, we know that there's a lot of influence, right? We're
And
already
that's also very common in Central America. So, we
exactly.
have pickled for pupusas, for yuca con chicharrón. So I think that that's all in that little area, right?
Yes, it all
So,
starts to blend in, and
yeah.
that. So, you know, um, the mercados. I had no idea. There's like a million things in that mercado, what you least expect, but they're all decorated so beautifully. The colors are vibrant. You walk in and you're just kind of like, there was one San Pascuas, I think it was called. They have these organic juices, you know, and they serve them in a plastic bag. And I have to post it. I haven't posted
Oh,
it.
okay. It's not a
It's
cup. It's a plastic bag with a straw.
with a straw, and I was enjoying it. And I mean, if you know me, I don't like papaya, but this one was papaya with orange, and let me tell you, delicious, absolutely gorgeous.
I don't like papaya either, but
The
I would
the,
have
the
to try it with
taste,
some orange.
oh, it was so good. Um, Mosquitoes galore.
Girl, don't say that again. Avon
Mosquitoes.
So Soft is what we have to wear all the time.
No,
Mm-mm.
I was just gonna tell you that doesn't even work because
I don't believe that, Anna.
I'm gonna
Did
show
you
you.
wear it? You didn't
I
take it
wore
with
it.
you.
I wore it.
And they still got you?
I covered myself. I don't think you can see them now, but yeah, I covered myself. And those mosquitoes are super mosquitoes. I don't know. They resist everything.
They're
Um,
Mayan mosquitoes.
Mayan mosquitoes. What else? Oh, chapulines.
You had some, huh?
I had some. My sister took a picture of me. So when people ask me, what does it taste like? Well, crunchy, lemony, salty. As long as you can ignore like
Yeah. I don't know. They have little legs, so
yeah, they
a
do.
little,
They
it's a
do.
challenge.
I
It's a challenge.
actually I brought you some. I'm gonna show them to you.
Oh, you brought me some. Wow, you're so nice, Peacock. Thank you.
I just thought I'm like I have to share this experience.
Got it. And then the
You know,
mole. Talk about the mole. How because
okay.
Oaxaca is known about for their mole. So tell us about the mole.
So I had found a woman who makes it in one of the mercados,
Yeah.
and she gave it for us to taste. And she says, I didn't know this. So there's mole for enchiladas, and then there's mole for pollo.
Ah,
And
okay.
they're different. They have a different taste, but they're so flippin' delicious. Like, so here I am tasting it. And so I bought some because it's a paste. And then you just kind of water it down with chicken broth, right? So I was all excited because I thought, oh, I'm going to make some and I'm going to share it. Well, okay, just FYI for anybody that wants to bring mole, don't do it. They made me throw it away, even though
That's
it was.
because you didn't check in. You didn't check in your bag.
I didn't check in. Well, I took the carry on challenge, and I think I won. I made
You
it.
won. Yes, you did. Thank God. Thank God.
But
But
you didn't
we
ask me
learn
how
as
you
we
did,
go.
but you didn't ask me the details of how I won.
How did you win?
I left all my clothes.
You left everything you took?
I left everything I
It
took.
was a humanitarian trip, girl.
I left everything I took.
Well, that's
Those,
good. We always we like to give back, and
we always give.
sometimes leaving your clothes is the best way of doing that.
That was
Yeah,
I
that's
had that.
awesome.
But one of the things that I have to mention is that my sister and I made this observation, and she's the one that vocalized it. She says, for people that don't have as much as we do, like we're so materialistic. What don't we have, right? Those people are so happy. They genuinely are happy people. Se levantan con música. I told you about
Yeah,
you don't need an alarm clock. You just 6 a.m. and that radio's blasting, but they're all genuinely happy. So for me, like,
and I think that has to do a lot with faith, also, Anna. They're deep faith folks, not just in Oaxaca, but I think in Latin America. And I remember my grandma used to tell me, like, when I used to be worried about stuff, she'd be like, todo se va a arreglar. They're very optimistic, and their faith really keeps them going day after day. And then because they don't have the materialistic things that we have. And I think that our country is a little different because they put so much financial pressure. I mean, the financial pressure is there too because you have to feed your family and you have to figure it out. But I think that's different. But I think that they truly live their life. They wake up, they breathe, they feed the chickens. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, vamos a hacer ahora, we're going to feed our family. It's different.
their
It's different.
focus their focus is very different.
Yes,
It's
that's
exactly
it.
what
Their
you
focus is different.
their
They have a
focus is,
different focus.
and they look at it very different. Like, of course, our focus is our families and everything, but we have a different frame of mind.
Yeah.
And to be able to disconnect the way I did, that was priceless.
Yeah. So, so when Anna and I first met and we started talking, I kind of divulged to her that I am a history buff and that I am a genealogy nerd. I love genealogy. I will find your ancestors in a hot second. And it was one of those things that I was like, you want me to do your family tree? She was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I'm like, well, what's your
But
mom's
first
name?
of all, when you said that, I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, I don't know. I couldn't fathom the idea of what you really meant by finding my family. Like, I knew my uncles and I knew my grandparents, but you go beyond that. How far?
Yes.
How? What's the year that you went furthest on my dad's side and my mom's side?
Well, with your mom, I'm able to go a little further back. I'm like back to the like early 1800s with your mom. And I know for some people, like my mom was like, "Pa qué?" Like she doesn't get it. But I love to know, like, where'd you come from and like what did you do? Because finding folks, all these certificates of marriage and death and birth, they tell you so much about the history. So I was able to find Anna's family like in a hot second. Like she was shocked. She had to call her mom.
Yeah.
And she was like, you lied to me. This is not true. So, and I uncover a lot of truth during family history. But part of it was like, Anna, you got to go back to Oaxaca because there's questions that are not answered. So we need to know And I know you were not able to get some of the answers that we were looking for, but that usually when you're doing some trip like this, it takes multiple trips because our wonderful Catholic Church is not as they don't like to cooperate in a time fashion in a fashion time. Um so anyways, and for your husband, for your husband, I was able to do it all the way back. I think we're like there mid 1700s. For him, it's
Something,
an
yeah.
amazing thing. Yeah. And the thing is that churches burn down because they have candles. And so it takes a little bit of a challenge. So having said that, I was thinking about doing in next year in 2024 a genealogy retreat and teaching people how to research their families, just doing some basics. Because I know a lot. I mean, I've done in 25 years that I've been doing my research, and I started back in 1995, right out of college, looking for my own family. I think I've done maybe like, I don't know, 30 genealogical trees. And currently, right now, in my ancestry login, I've got about 17 of those. So every night before I go to bed, I'm like, who am I going to look for today? Let me look. See, oh, look, I found Valerie's great 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 grandfather. Wow, let me put him in there. So I know some people are like, oh my God, what a waste of time. For me, I love it. It's a
Oh,
connection
I
to
think
the past. I love the past.
I think I think it's a beautiful art. That's how I see it, an art, and it would be a shame to lose that art. And the fact that you're enthralled in it. Like I thought genealogy. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do with
I
genealogy?
am.
But when you show me those documents and the writing, you're like, oh wow, or the pictures, right? That
Yes,
is just extremely. It's very you find like there's a love in there. I can't even explain that, but I think genealogy is
I
definitely
do. I
art.
love it. So, I'm like the Maury Povich of genealogy because sometimes I'll let you know that the person you've been calling your dad this whole time is not your dad.
You're like, that's not your dad. So first of all,
That is
back
not
up.
your father.
Is Maury Povich still on TV?
No, he's not.
So maybe some people may not know what Maury Povich is.
Oh, Maury Povich was the guy who used to do the DNA test for folks that used to go on his show, and he would be like, "He is not your father." So I am the genealogy Maury Povich. I would let you know. I got some bad news for you. And then if I push you to do your DNA test, and then you find out you've got all kinds of brothers and sisters you didn't know about, that's a whole different story. So I am planning to put together a retreat. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know. Let us know in the comments. We would be glad to, start thinking about it and putting it together. We are definitely thinking about going away on this retreat to help out. So it'd be like half retreat, half vacation. So it'll be kind of like nice. So thank you so much, Anna, for sharing with us, your trip to Oaxaca. I know that we will be back next year. And part of this trip was to make some connections and do some research so we can offer this same trip next year to our followers and to the women who are. I know we've had so many people come to us and say, oh my God, we want to go there. This is on my bucket list, part of my dream. So
Yes.
now that you've been there, now we can start, doing the work behind the scenes so we can offer the same trip next year. So that's
Yes.
so awesome, Anna. Thank you so much. And so one of the things before we kind of sign off is I wanted to kind of talk about Morocco. So I'm kind of feeling like people might be a little geographically challenged. And I want to, okay, Anna, yes, you are one of them. Thank you. But bless your heart for following me all over the world. Because I could be like, we're going to the core of the earth. And you're like, okay, what's that? Don't matter, Anna. Just get in the car. We're going. So I want to just make sure that Morocco is in northern Africa and it is literally across from Spain. It is not near where the current conflict in the in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine are currently occurring and the Egypt, that whole section there. Although Morocco has a very large Arab, Muslim connection, of course, because that's what the originality, but it's also a very big melting pot of Spanish people, people from Europe, people from the rest of Africa, Christians, Jewish, Arab. It's a huge melting pot. And so I want to make sure that our listeners understand that it is very safe to go to Morocco. They recently had an earthquake, and the earthquake did not affect the city of Marrakesh, which was near there. But I want to make sure that our listeners understand that going to Morocco is a safe trip. There is no risk. And when I say risk, there's always a risk, personal risk, things like that. But as it comes to what's happening currently in the Middle East, that is not situated in the Morocco area. So I just want to make sure that our listeners are aware of where Morocco is and what this trip really does entail. I mean, it's going to be a beautiful cultural experience to just really go back into time. I went to Morocco in 2008, and I felt like I had stepped back into the 14th century because it's just a lot. There's a lot happening, a lot of they're very traditional people. They wear the same type of clothing that they do. And, they sit on the floor, they eat. I mean, it's just an amazing culture. And I really would like to invite our listeners to sign up for this trip that's coming up in February 11th through the 16th. We still have some space available. So I'm encouraging everyone to take a chance and let's go to Morocco because one of us will be there also.
That's a very unique experience that I think everyone, I mean, these are experiences that if we have the opportunity, you should take it.
Isn't one of your grandmothers, your great grandmothers, born in Melilla, which is right next to Tangiers?
If I'm
Or
not
should I tell you
mistaken,
that? Did you know that?
if I'm not mistaken, my grandfather's from my mom's side, yes. Yes. And I've never been.
Yes, they were born in Northern Africa because it's Morocco and then there's Tangiers and then so there's a little area right there called Melilla. I think it's called Melilla. And that's where she's from. So yes, Northern Africa has a lot of history in connection with Spain. Spain, and we talked about this in the past. Southern part of Spain has huge influence from Morocco, from the early days, 79 AD, with the whole Andalusia. That whole Andalusia world comes from Northern Africa, from Algiers and Morocco. So there's a lot of history there that you'll be able to connect Spain with Morocco and Tangiers. So we're really inviting you to come on this trip so you can kind of start putting the puzzle together. All right. Any last words, Anna?
No, what
Well,
I
where are
you know
you off to next? That's actually the question. Where are you off to next?
stay tuned.
So Anna has a couple more trips to go this year. I'm actually staying back. I am just, taking it in and having Peacock travel and fly her wings for the rest of the year and bring back some very vital information. So tell me, what are your last words since I interrupted you?
No, I was just gonna say, today I just had this, in talking to people, when I was in Oaxaca, one of the things that kept coming up is that, um, we talked about this before, and I'll say this really quickly, is the fear of the unknown, right? And so I can't tell you how many people I spoke to, both women and men, that they're being held back because of fear. And the only message that kept coming to me to tell them is, listen, when that door opens, just walk through it. Don't worry about it. And today, in my head, I was thinking, and I was going through my pictures, and I took a picture of this door that I just found fascinating, and it was halfway open. And in that moment when I took that picture, that's what came to mind. Is like, what's through that door? I have no idea. Just walk through it. And just walking through it, it just brings you a whole other thing. So our Monday motivation, and I don't know, maybe we could start this every Monday, but I posted it on there. Like, this is really truly from both Sandy and I. The message is, when that door comes knocking and there's something that's open for you, take that opportunity to walk through it. You won't regret it. You won't look back. And we promise you, it opens up a whole other world. So I think that's the message that I've been carrying. And that's how you and I have gotten here. We had nothing planned. And lo and behold, these doors have opened for us, and we just keep walking through it. So that's the only thing that comes to
Don't
mind.
let fear, don't let fear stop you from living your life.
Don't let fear. And if you have fear, call us. We'll talk you out of it. Don't you worry.
Oh yeah, girl, please. You want to go to Antarctica? Yes, you're going to Antarctica. Don't you worry about it. You might freeze, but don't worry. So, but thank you so much, Peacock. So I'm looking forward to next Monday when we start another week with episode 10 with two peacocks.
And you know what? Let's start reminding our, if they haven't seen it on our Instagram, we're going to be on um a webinar
Yes,
masterclass with
that's
Latino World
true.
Travelers November 15th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we're going to be posting that, the links and everything.
Yes,
Please register, share it with people. It's really going to be a talk about our journey and how we have found traveling as a huge benefit towards mental wellness.
yes,
And we
that's
want to invite
absolutely
everyone to
true.
join us. Yes.
Well, then we'll remind them again next week. But thank you so
Yes.
much, Anna. Enjoy your day and your weekend or your weekdays in Joshua Tree, and
I
we
will be
will.
right there.
You can be right there. Okay, good. Yeah,
Right.
on that hammock right there, and your husband on the other one. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
Have a
Exactly.
great day, Peacock. Until episode
Thank
9.
you. You too. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.